Now that we conferred on something else, we are 5:59.
Very good, it is. Council Rick.
It's 6.
Yep. Very good. Good evening, everyone. We'll call to order this regular meeting of the Willows City Council for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. The time is 6 o'clock sharp, 6 p.m. Item 2 on our agenda this evening, the Pledge of Allegiance. Joviani Triceri, would you do the honors, lead us to the pledge tonight, please? Thank you.
Ready to begin. Pledge allegiance to the
flag United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, sir. Item 3, roll call. City Clerk Amos Hoover, please.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Sprague.
Here.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hudson.
Present.
Mayor Hanson.
Here.
Everyone's present, sir.
Thank you, Amos. Item 4, changes to the agenda. City Manager Marty Brown. Good evening, Marty.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. The only proposed change to the agenda is to move the discussion and action calendar number 7A, final results of council goal and priority setting workshop, right immediately following the consent calendar and before the public hearing on unmet transit needs. If it
Very good, Marty.
pleases the council.
That's the only recommended change. Very good. We'll move item 7A just ahead of item 6, which is our public hearing. Item 5, public comment and consent calendar forum. All matters on the consent calendar are considered routine and are approved by one motion and vote unless council members or the city manager first request that a matter be removed for separate discussion and action. Individuals wishing to address the city council concerning consent calendar items or regarding matters that are not already on the agenda are invited to make oral comments of up to 3 minutes at this time. Please address your comments to the mayor and council members and not to staff and or the audience. As a reminder, by state law, the council is not permitted to undertake any action or discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. First, are there any public comments in reference to the consent calendar this evening? No public comments? Okay. How about any public comments in reference to any matters not on the agenda? Any public comment? Matters not on the agenda? Nothing? Okay. The consent calendar, item 5A, register approval. Consider approval of the general checking, payroll, and direct deposit check registers. Item 5B, minutes approval. Consider approval of the May 28, 2024 council meeting minutes. Item 5C, solid waste management parcel fee. Consider adoption of a resolution extending service charges imposed on approved real property within the incorporated area of the city of Willows for the use of and or ability to use the Glenn County solid waste system during fiscal year 2024, 2025. Item 5D, 2024 November general election. Consider adoption of a resolution requesting the Glenn County Board of Supervisors to render specified services to the city of Willows to conduct the city's municipal elections to be held on November 5th, 2024, the date of the nationwide general election pursuant to section 10,002 of the California Elections Code. And item 5E, Library Board of Trustees appointment. Consider appointment of Crystal Betancourt to the Willows Library Board of Trustees in accordance with the recommendation of Vice Mayor Hudson to fill the remainder of the term ending on June 30th, 2026. Council members, questions, comments in reference to the consent calendar?
I'm probably the only one here that doesn't know if Crystal Betancourt is related to you.
Did not hear. Where do you say?
Is Crystal Betancourt related to you, sir?
Yes, it is my dad's wife.
Your dad's fine. Okay, thank you.
Anything further, David?
No.
That's why
I phrased it that way.
Yeah.
We have an amended action minutes on a dais, adding the to action item retail dispensary, second motion to remain at 1,000 feet from schools, adding the word from schools.
Is that an additional copy?
You should have one
I
on.
got one if you need it.
I don't have one. Did not.
It's right there with your one.
Underneath
Writing.
Gary.
Oh, underneath your hands. Underneath the manila envelope. Part of that. It's part of that packet right there.
It is.
Yeah.
See it. Well, I read the emails. Okay, there it is. There it is. So this, thank you, Councilmember Thomas.
So we just, I would have moved to approve the consent calendar with that change.
Very good. Oh, in reference to the Glen Groundwater Authority funding.
No, to
It's-
the, item 6C of the previous minutes, the second motion to pass the resolution with an amendment that the distance requirement to remain at 1,000 feet from schools.
Yeah, I still don't have, I don't have that. Thank you. Very good, as amended. Mr. Thomas is did you move to approve, Rick?
Yes.
With that
Moved to
amendment.
Councilmember Thomas has moved to approve the consent calendar with the amendment as stated. And Councilmember Sprague.
Sprague, I would ask that we move, or I can ask just for clarity on two of these questions, if I might, as opposed to removing them from calendar.
Go ahead, Mr. Sprague. We have a
Yes,
motion or we don't have a second, but go
city-
ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
City manager, on Laylo, on the check register, Laylo's tree service for $10,800. I'm assuming that was that emergency we had a couple of weeks ago.
That is correct, yeah.
Are we going to be able to recover that from the property owner?
They have been built, yes.
They have been built. Okay, thank you. And then just for clarity on the elections, probably a question for the clerk in regard to the filing and so on. It says the draft resolution provides a 200-word limit for candidate statements and requires the candidate to remit a deposit of $500 for the candidate statement. That's not a fee associated with filing or asking to be on the city council. That's just if they want a statement on the.
Yeah, I believe that's just a statement, and we're talking about the 200 words,
Yes.
it's up to its council's discretion of whether they want it 200 or 500.
Right.
You can, which maximum ever you want. 200 has been pretty standard, it looks like in previous elections, so I kind of opted that.
I'm sorry, say again.
200 word limit was,
That's
In-
fine, but
yeah.
I'm asking about the cost. This is only if the candidate wants to put a statement on the ballot.
that is correct, yeah, and that fee's levied by the
Right.
county, that's not ours.
Okay, kind of cost prohibitive, but I would not want that cost to be passed on to a person just wanting to apply for or be on. Okay, thank you. With that, Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
Councilmember Thomas has moved to approve the consent calendar as amended. Councilmember Sprague has the second. Further discussion? Mr. City Clerk, roll call vote, please. Is there a resolutions attached? Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas,
Yes.
Councilmember Sprague,
Yes.
Councilmember Vaughn,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hudson,
Yes.
Mayor Hanson.
Matter carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move to item 7A. Final results of the council goal and priority setting workshop. Consider, amend as necessary, and adopt the city council's final vision, priorities, and goals resulting from the May 1 and May 15th goal and priority setting workshops. Joviano Triceri with RIA Collaboratories presented, and I will first turn to City Manager Marty Brown for any comments.
I don't really have any comments other than I thought that the workshop went really well, both workshops, and looking forward to hearing council comments this evening. And I'm hoping that we walk away from this evening with a completed approved document from the council with any amendments as the council sees fit.
Thank you, Marty. Joviani, it's good to see you tonight. Thank you very much for being here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, the city of Willows embarked on this process and asked me to come in and facilitate a process that would help define the future direction and the priorities for the city of Willows. We did that over 2 workshops. I'll go ahead and we did on May 1st, the vision workshop. And that was really looking at how can we together as a council define the vision direction that we would like to see Willows. So then we did the second workshop. We actually, in that first workshop, we did do really starting to set the priorities. What would we like to see focused on in the second workshop? And 2 weeks later, we came together here in the chambers to refine and prioritize those goals and then develop those strategic actions. The vision, we'll just dive right into it. You have the report in front of you. I try to keep that as not a lot of fluff in it, just what we came up with. And then for you all to fill in any of the other things that we need to talk about there. But the vision that was defined by this council and then agreed on was Willows is a thriving and safe community where families want to live, work, and recreate. It will foster a proactive business environment that expands other industries, supports its agricultural heritage, and leverages its recreational attractions. So we set that intention and we came to agreement on that second workshop, and then we highlighted the priorities. The priorities, as it's there on the slide, was financial stability, economic development, public safety, community engagement, infrastructure improvement, and quality of life. One thing I want to point out in this process, what we were trying to do is reflect a process that was balanced and had a collaborative approach. So while this final prioritization may not represent the individual preferences of every council, what I try to do in facilitating this is really come to a collaborative preference of the city council. So this is what together through this prioritization process that we did by selecting 10 points, 5 points, then 2 points for the first, second, and third priority of each council member. We then, if the document also outlines not just the priorities, but specific goals. Since you've received this, you've seen how we've articulated them, and I've really tried to reflect word for word much of the language that I heard come from this room and from this council. And so the first goal, here is to educate the community on the city's fiscal health and impacts on Measure I. That was at the very top of most people's list. Develop a grant strategy to pursue funds. Goal 3 is to add to the city's general fund reserve. The fourth goal was to add an economic development element to the general plan. The fifth, optimize in-house staffing to improve financial efficiency. Goal 6, develop an asset replacement plan for large equipment. Now, as I articulated these from that workshop, I did not determine the feasibility of what these would be. What the process would be is that once you have discussion in here and approve a document that highlights what the priorities are, this is something then that would go to city staff and they would give obviously their input on the feasibility and the timeline that each of these goals could be realistically achieved. We tried to do this within a 1 to 3 year process that these goals could be achieved, but some of these will take much longer. I want to just see how you all want to do it. I want to pause there. And do we want to talk about each? Would you like to have any questions on each of these priorities? Or do you want me to go through the rest of them?
I think what you've covered so far is good, but we should stop at the end of each priority and discuss
Great.
those priorities.
Sound good? Very good, Giovanni.
Great.
Yeah.
So with that one, we'll pause and so keep on going. I just want to clarify. You wanted me to keep on going and then go to the priorities, or
I have no,
pause right now?
I have no comments on the financial.
Okay.
stability side, so that's
Maybe
something
there's
else
any
does.
questions on that financial
Council
stability.
members, any questions, comments in reference to priority 1, financial stability? Nothing? Okay.
Pass the sales tax.
Yeah, and so with that, I want to articulate or really clarify the words that were used on some of the sticky notes were pass the tax. Now, obviously, the voters need to pass that. We're looking at what can also legally that the city can do as an entity. And really that is that educate the community on the city's fiscal health and the impacts of Measure I. And so that's why that was worded a little differently, just to make sure that it passed any muster that way.
No, absolutely. Appropriately so. Very good. Thank you.
So the second priority was economic development. This one, and I'll just go through the goals. The first goal, develop a single point of contact for business outreach and development. That seemed like a strong preference for many council members. Leverage existing tourism opportunities. The third goal is to complete a code update to promote business opportunities. The fourth, improve city appearance to attract businesses and visitors. And the fifth one, to identify and prioritize areas for annexation to support economic development. I try to craft these goals to, again, reflect what I heard, but broad enough where it gives the city staff some leeway on constructing what that would look like in the details. So it doesn't get too much in the weeds, but it sets the intention we really would like the city staff to make this a priority. Any questions on the economic development?
Any questions?
Not from me, no. Looks
No
great.
questions.
Great.
Going on?
So the third priority that was articulated by this second workshop was public safety. The first goal, conduct a detailed financial analysis to restore the Willows Police Department. The second goal is to right size and enhance the Willows Fire Department to include 24-hour ALS services. And the third one is to enhance visible crosswalks and signage for road safety. Any questions on those? Okay. And the fourth priority, community engagement. There was a lot of sentiment in the room really that we need to engage the community and go out and do some outreach, but also invite them to be more involved in the processes here in these chambers. So the first goal is to launch an aggressive image campaign to promote the positives of Willows. The second goal is to conduct town hall meetings and engage citizens in city governance. The third, partner with the business community to create foot traffic and civic engagement. Promote community events and enhance quality of life. Any questions on those?
Yes.
Yes. Steve.
Well, I think goal number 2 should be goal number 1. Conduct town hall meetings, engage the citizens in city governance. I think that goes hand in hand in educating the community about our financial woes, as we're also get their participation of where we want to go. So launch the aggressive image campaign. That would be a number 2 that would be developed from the goal of number 1. Conduct town hall meetings, my opinion. Number 3 and 4, what I read through this is most of some of this stuff would be a Chamber of Commerce function. And we don't have a very strong Chamber of Commerce. And I would like us to see what we can do to enhance that. So my question to this council would be, maybe we should appoint a member of the council to be a liaison to the Chamber of Commerce to encourage them to do better.
I want to agree with Rick about the number 2 being number 1. My primary objective, and I wasn't sure we were going to change this at all. I mean, there are some notes and thoughts and questions based on your narrative interpretation of what we all did and said. But I don't see us rewriting this as part of this process. But I do think we need to be proactive and show something. And the town hall meetings are visible, tangible, real, and we'll get media and we'll say that we're starting something. So I really would like to start with outreach that's significant and meaningful and different.
Yeah, and I will say on this one, I think that there's a good case to do that. These two received about the same amount of votes when we were doing that. So it was just in the writing of it. And that's something with this process and this document, there can be some changes like that. And there could be obviously anything you want to change in it, but this document essentially is a policy document for the city staff and what you would like them to focus on as far as priorities. And so you as a council have every right to, do some changes in that as long as there's some agreement.
I was gonna ask, when you have them goal 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're not necessarily saying is that you listing them in priority ranking as well, or is that just you listing them down under that priority?
I did it in how many votes they received.
Right, and I remember
under
voting
that.
like on the main category of the priority for community engagement. But as far as then underneath there, the goals are, those goals, are those still in a priority?
Yes,
category as well?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So there were, we had a lot of different sticky notes.
Mhm.
There were if you remember, there were the stripped down ones,
Mhm.
and those were on the individual goals.
Right, okay,
And then we did a prioritization of all the bigger buckets.
gotcha,
Priorities.
okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there was,
Now it's coming back.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
flowing back in. Got it.
yeah. And, you know, Giovanni, you did an excellent job of capturing all of our thoughts, concerns, and, you know, requests. But, you know, I view this for Rick and David, your questions. I do view this, as basically a living document. Obviously, it's going to change moving forward. And the next council will no doubt have other thoughts and changes, and this council may very well have other thoughts as we move forward. But it's a good start, and I just want to, you know, congratulate you. You did an outstanding job capturing all of our thoughts.
Right.
Absolutely, and really, some of them were splitting hairs too. And you had rules that we had to follow and play by, and you captured everything. I mean, your report is astounding. You captured it using brevity briefly, like we asked, and excellent job. So I was going to say that for later, but I
Great.
just wanted to let you know. I mean, I really have no questions or concerns at all, because you captured all of our concerns.
Great.
And we just want to thank you for doing an outstanding job.
Wonderful.
It was a pleasure.
Great.
I wasn't sure what we were going to be getting into at first. I think it was going to probably be a good exercise, but thank you, Evan, for bringing this matter forward. But I think it was a time and funds well used. So thank you.
I enjoy this process. I enjoy trying to get some consensus and in collaborative efforts this way.
Well, you did a good job bringing us all in, and we
Great.
all got to say, you know, what we wanted
Great.
and needed to say. So good job. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I do want to say, I know Councilmember Thomas, you wanted like 4 to 5 pages. So
Yeah, I was
a little
gonna
more.
chastise you for 2 extra pages.
Yeah, we did tack on some extra pages there, but I'll continue with the other ones. I do think, let's note that on goal 1 and 2. I think what the city manager could really look at that and make sure that the efforts that the city does reflects that.
Before you move on, I'd
Yeah.
like to piggyback on Councilman Thomas's comment on partnering and working with the Chamber of Commerce. And I do recommend that we do have a liaison for that. I also recommend that you would be the most appropriate candidate for that for several reasons. Number one, you've been on the Chamber of Commerce, president of it in the past. You're former chairman of the Economic Development Corporation for the city of Orland. And out of us 5, you're the only one that guaranteed that you'll be here beyond January. Okay, so I would recommend, I don't know if we need a formal motion.
It'll be, Mr. Craig, we can agendize that for future discussion at the
Okay.
next meeting.
Thank you,
Yeah,
but
very good.
I don't want that one to go away.
No,
By
absolutely not.
suggesting it, I was kind of volunteering.
Okay.
Great. I'll move to the 5th priority, infrastructure improvement. Again, these, when we're starting to go to priority 5 and 6, it's not that these are at the bottom of the list. These are all at the top of the list, and we're prioritizing what emerges on the top of the list of concerns for this council. So these are very important, and this was the difficulty that I know many of you had in the prioritization process of selecting what those would be. But infrastructure improvement, the first goal, implement the community improvement plan for streets, sidewalks, and lighting. Second goal is to enhance the public works team to ensure effective service delivery. Third goal, to develop Willows as a transportation hub. And the 4th goal, implement the sewage repair plan. Any questions on that? And then the 6th priority is quality of life. And this one here, the first goal, is to hire a full-time recreation director. The second goal, open the city pool to create a community hub. The third, enhance the maintenance of city parks. And the fourth, expand youth and adult activities. Any questions on those?
My comment on goal 4.
Yep.
Is redundant because it's listed several other places. So I think goal 4 shows up in a couple different places. For example, partner with local organizations, same as goal number 1. And create a community events calendar, same as goal number 4 and priority number 5. So I think we don't need goal 4.
And then
I'm trying
that-
to get us stacked.
Yeah. Try to take out one of the pages here. No, that was mentioned by a couple of you in the second workshop, that goal of expanding youth and adult activities really could even fall into that goal number 1. And I did put that in as a, possible initiatives under that goal and what that would look like, expanding existing youth and adult recreational programs. So it certainly is captured there, that if it was eliminated, it would still be represented somewhere. I wanted to honor that it was still, there was a priority in that one.
Councilman Thomas, have you seen the I-5 study report?
Yes.
This is not too long.
No. We'll get to that.
So those are the priorities that we had articulated on here. I'm just going to go on some suggested next steps. What I heard from each of you at the beginning of this process during the interviews was that you didn't want to see this sit on a shelf somewhere, that this wouldn't be just put in a file on somebody's computer and not seen again, and really have some action. And so that is something that then this council will need to be proactive about how we're putting some action to it. So I've suggested some next steps. It's on the slide there, and then in more detail, city manager had included it in her report as well. Basically, this first one is to a policy adoption. The city council should formally adopt this report as a guiding policy document to ensure alignment and commitment to the articulated priorities and goals. The second next step would be the development of a work plan. And this is where city staff would take this report and develop what that incremental work plan would look like. And it would give some specific initiatives and those types of things and timelines. The third one would be a regular progress review on this, on the goals and how that is happening, and that's something that would be set by the council, whether it be once a quarter, twice a year, annual, but something where there would be an intention of reviewing the progress of these goals. And then the fourth one is really that continued community engagement, so that you continue to hear the feedback from the citizens on their priorities. And that's what I think is reflected here from you all as representatives of this community, of saying these are the priorities. And obviously, as you mentioned, this is a living document and things may change as the community sees the priorities. So that concludes with that. This is the document following up from that workshop to really capture what you all had stated and the desires in there. Again, this is really that collaborative approach to it. And it may not reflect exactly what each of you would want to see as the priorities, but this reflects what the council would be working towards.
No, thank you, Giovanni. Any further questions, comments from the council before we move to public comments? Mr. Bodden?
Yeah, I learn a lot from what other people do. We've done many of these before. Can you cite or tell us a story about somebody who completed one of these and 2 or 3 years later you saw the very tangible, real beneficial outcome?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I have worked with different groups, whether it be boards, whether it be chambers, and many times different massive projects that need to be accomplished. I would say that many, many times there will be changes. That's something to expect, that you would see as we continue into this. There are variables that we don't know that will come into play 3 to 6 months from now. And so expect those, so that if it doesn't land here, if you go back in 10 years, or let's say that not even 10 years, let's just say 3 years, and you look back at this report and say, did we accomplish these? There will be, you will see that you have accomplished many of them, but then many of them you may not have. And part of that is because but it's taken you into a trajectory that way. So some specific examples that I've seen, we have school boards who have implemented, completely redone their curriculum, or the structure of the way that the teachers would engage with parents. I've seen, and so there's ways that I've done this with school boards where, as you know, over the last few years, a lot of contentiousness with school boards have existed throughout many communities. And so finding that common ground on what teachers would teach in the classroom that would align with what some obligations from the state would be, but would have parent input. And so I've seen that implemented well. I've seen
Pick a city.
in a city. I've worked with the town of Paradise, and there's a lot that has been in different capacities. And so seeing a lot of their plans implemented, when you have, particularly obviously with the town of Paradise, they were working with, they had a lot to go, and they were working with finance. They were able to get funding, and that was something that would be different than in here. It was, they had federal funds, they had state funds, the housing funds, they had a lot of grants. But it required them to articulate with their town manager what the goals that they wanted, the priorities they wanted to see. Obviously for them, it was housing. And then a lot, they had to redo their roads and utilities and those types of things. But really that had set them in motion what they were going to focus on over and above some other things that they wanted to see.
Thank you.
Any further, David?
Nope.
Thank you. Any further comments, Mr.
Uh,
Thomas?
I have a comment, Mr. Oh, go ahead. No,
Nope. The only question I had would be for staff. Is this going to be beneficial for you?
Yes, actually, I was going to add that in an opportune moment. I think that it's helpful for us, as mentioned when this was first initiated by Vice Mayor Hudson, that, you know, there's 5 of you and there's 1 of me, and it's helpful to, you know, have a sense of where the council's visions, goals, priorities are before we run off and do some initial evaluating and bringing some sort of policy action forward. It's good to know whether or not you're even interested before we expend staff time on the initial stages. So I think this helps us understand where your priorities are and where to go look for funding for projects and things like that. So yeah, I'm actually really pleased that you did this, and I think it will be very beneficial and helpful. And in fact, I also would recommend that we do another thing I've done in other cities, which is we add to our staff report template under discussion, after discussion and analysis, another section, which is how is whatever we're presenting to you consistent with your priorities and goals. It's consistent with priority 3, goal number 2, because in a brief statement of how, what we're bringing to you, so that, you know, we can all stay on track and see how we are continuing to implement projects and bring forward policy initiatives to the council that are consistent with whatever hopefully you're going to approve tonight or another night. So.
Thank you.
Very good.
Like
Mr. Craig?
yes, my comment when Evan brought this to us to put it on the agenda for discussion, I brought in the 5 or 6 somewhat studies that we participated in as a city over the last 2 decades. And my short math said that we spent over $120,000 to $130,000 for those studies and so on that sat on the shelf someplace and never to be looked at again. So I was a little skeptical, and if you'll recall, I did the math on your fee was pretty equal to about $1,000 per page. So you kept us under that. So, but again, I was skeptical, but I was pleased to be part of this. I'm pleased with the outcome because here's the distinction that I picked up out of this. Everything in here is an action. compared to what we're going to discuss in a little bit on the I-5 report. And I actually like this I-5 report so much that I bound it so that I can put it on my nightstand. So if I have a case of insomnia, I can get a cure. So here's a distinction that we can actually do something with this. This is statistical information that is very informative, but it doesn't outline a game plan. This is also takes on a region as opposed to something very specific for us here in Willows. And I think that's the distinction of what we've got with this. This is something that we can apply for the city of Willows and accomplish something for the benefit of the city. of Willows. Thank you. Good job.
Mr. Hudson.
Yeah, so obviously I'm the newest council member up here. And so when this idea was kind of bouncing around, I didn't know how it was gonna go. And then it was brought up that Mr. Sprague said there's been other attempts at something similar to this. And then when I really started thinking about it, I was like, I want something short, because like he said, the feasibility study, I use insurance documents. If I have insomnia, I pull out an insurance document and I start reading that verbiage in there and I'm good. But I do like this. I like how it's easy to chew, right? It's not, this is a snack size. It's not like 3-course meal. Something pretty easy to follow. I really appreciate your work on it. As many people know, this 5 members up here, we've been known to disagree on a lot of things. And so actually finding where our different bubbles kind of merge together and where our commonalities are is really what this plan did. So that, hopefully from here on out, we have a general goal, right? Not saying we're going to hit every target specifically on the same brainwave, but at least we'll be in the general direction of where we want to be in the future. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see this and hopefully can continue to be a part of it as it goes. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Evan. Before I make my final comment, are there any public comments tonight in reference to this matter? Mr. Ross, yes, absolutely. Evening, Doug. Good. How are you? Good.
Doug Ross, I live in Willows. I have for 30 years now. I've only stopped for one night originally. I guess it captured me. But to get to the point, I was thinking when I was sitting down just now that in inventorying the hospitals from Woodland to Reading, I get that Woodland has one, Willows has one, Red Bluff has one, and then Reading has one, and then you've got Enlow. And I believe that is all 5 within a elliptical or whatever of that description of I-5 and 99 East. So I've sat through a lot of this, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but with prioritization of a long-term nurturing of having a hospital here part of the discussion, and if it wasn't, then I remember the travails about a few years back when Dick Mudd was the head of the Board of Supervisors, and Mr. Thomas, Councilman Thomas here was very integral. So if that's not on the list, or even if it is on the list or was, forgive me if my memory doesn't serve me correctly, but I think Willows would greatly benefit by the city council and the Board of Supervisors taking a proactive role in long-term nurturing and retention of the hospital. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ross,
Okay.
for your comments. Any other public comments this evening? Oh, Mrs. Smith.
My name is Janice Smith and I've lived in Willows since 1964. Anyway, I don't always get involved. I do pay attention. And at the last planning commission meeting, it was interesting. And I do like to pay attention to what's going on. And I'm that keeping the public enthused part of your goals and keeping us involved, which I think is a really good idea, because I feel for you trying to figure out what to do with our little town and keep us rolling. So it sounds like your workshop was good. I came in on this a little bit late, but I like the way the goals sound. I'm not sure what all the answers are, trying to get people involved, I don't know. It's good luck. Because I don't know. But there's a lot of skepticism as in where are we headed? And what will our town look like in 10 years? And sometimes I think I'm glad I'm old. So I just want to say this was promising as I popped in here tonight to see what was going on. I try to come, but life is busy. So I will pay attention, and I do like to have the information so that when I talk to others, I speak about fact, not fiction, and not rumor. But good luck. And you have a big job ahead of you, as you always have had. And I do read the Facebook thing each month to see what the city's been up to. But you still have a lot ahead of you. And I'll help when I can. But anyway,
Could you
Thank
run
you
for
for your-
city council?
Thank you.
pardon?
Could you run for city council,
No.
please?
I've done my 45 years of service to the community, and I didn't even want to come tonight, but I've got that Dick Bond in me, and I had to come see what was going on.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comments this evening, Ms. Mayor? Okay, well, thank you very much for your input. And Giovanni, once again, Evan touched on it. I mean, we have a diverse council here, which is a good thing. We have diverse backgrounds, which is good for the city. But we found a lot of common ground here. And like I say, you did an outstanding job bringing us together on the common ground. But I just want to say, we have a mission statement that was, it's quite dated, a number of years old now from our last, I believe, our SWOT assessment, actually, years ago. But, your vision for a thriving Willows, I think we found a new mission statement. And it was, again, common ground from our input. And I just want to read it just for the benefit of the audience members who may not have seen it, but this is our vision statement as developed in our council priority workshop. Willows is a thriving and safe community where families want to live, work, and recreate. We'll foster a proactive business environment that expands other industries, supports its agricultural heritage, and leverages its recreational attractions. I think that's outstanding. You captured our thoughts collaboratively, and excellent work. So good job. And I appreciate when you started this process, you reached out to each of us individually for a 45-minute or an hour conversation before we had our first workshop. And I think that was extremely effective. I just want to thank you for your professionalism and your focus. And I was very comfortable speaking with you. And as you know, and I laid a lot of things out there, but I'm very satisfied with the final product. Excellent document, outstanding document, very valuable. So this was definitely worth it. So thank you. Excellent work. With that, anything further, council members, before we move forward? Marty, yes?
I just would like to ask some clarifying questions, because if you're going to move
Absolutely.
forward with potentially approving the document, then we need to clarify whether or not at the count, there's 3 or more council members that want to move goal 2 of community engagement to goal 1, and have the first goal be goal 2. Remove the goal 3 and 4 and potentially create a goal 3 that is appoint a liaison to the Chamber of Commerce. And remove goal 4 of the recreation, quality of life. Since expanding youth and adults activities, it seemed like there was consensus that that was somewhere else. Do you want to make those changes?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to move the presentation as it was presented intact.
Okay.
Doesn't matter, we can do it in any order we want.
Second.
Very good. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the council priority report as presented. Since we have a motion and a second, we will continue with this item at this point. Further discussion?
Only one final comment. I'd like to see this presented to the planning commission so they can take part of knowing where the council is and if they had any comments or discussion that could be backfed to the council.
Very
And,
good.
and I would like to see it presented in the media, whether it's in social media or whether it's in the local paper, but yeah, I'm sure we could edit, adapt, or otherwise cause it to show up in
Certainly.
any number of public forums, please.
Very good.
Absolutely.
That's the
This,
plan.
this will be posted on, our website and Facebook pages with the city and is shared with at all, platforms. Very good. Thank you. What's been moved and seconded to approve the council priority report as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Excellent work. Thank you, Giovanni. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Been a pleasure.
Just to comment on that last one, though, I do want to make sure that you captured the idea that we'll put it on the agenda for a liaison to the,
Sure.
to
That's
the,
a-
Yes,
something
I was going to bring that up under council comments and reports, Mr. Sprague, but we can do that now.
thank you.
I believe there is consensus to have the council liaison to the Chamber of Commerce
Sure.
for
Certainly.
future agenda discussion at our next meeting. Very good. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a little bit of a housekeeping question here, if I might. I can hear perfectly well what you say, what Mr. Hudson says, what the city manager says, and Joe says. I don't hear a thing out or barely hear what comes out of this microphone. And I barely hear what comes out of their microphone. Is it a matter of they're not speaking into the microphone or just speaking too softly? Or is it electronics?
Operator error.
We're gonna have to get.
I'll
on the
speak
City
up.
Clerk advises operator error. I heard every word.
We're gonna have to
Very
get them the
good.
headsets here in a little while. So then they can sit back as far as they want or.
You know, it was the city clerk that ratted you guys out. by the way.
Really? Should have one of these.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Thank you again, Giovanni. My pleasure. Safe travels. Well, we'll move back to item 6, our public hearing. All matters in this section of the agenda are formal public hearings and will be acted on individually. Once the mayor opens the public hearing, members of the public may request to speak. When you're called on by the mayor, please state your name clearly for the audio recording. If you have any documentation that you would like to be distributed to the council, please give it to the city clerk for distribution. Item 6A, our annual unmet transit needs discovery process. Item will be facilitated, okay, with facilitate a public hearing with the Glenn County Transit Authority for the annual unmet transit needs discovery process. Tonight, we're very pleased to have Marty Thomas, the Glenn County Director of Planning and Community Development here this evening. Marty, it's good to see you as always.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin, I do have some items for the clerk to hand to the council. While he's doing that, I'll just explain why I'm here. As some of you may know, most of our funding for the transportation or transit comes through the Transportation Development Act, which is a sales tax that is paid throughout California. That was enacted in 1971. Occasionally, these funds may be used for other purposes other than transit, but we have to go through this process of identifying all the transit needs for the public, and hence why we are here. I do have something else I would like to speak to you on related to this matter later, but we will go ahead with the public hearing first. So just as a reminder, we have some definitions of what an unmet transit need is. And to briefly state that it's basically anything for employment, non-emergency medical care, educational opportunities, or shopping for necessities of life. And also obtaining any other services that may be needed by the individual. We are here to gather any feedback regarding the transit system of needs that need to be met. Just so all those in the room are aware, we do get frequent comments about shelters for bus stops, and that's a good thing to know, but those are not unmet transit needs. The need is actually the need for the transport Those are enhancements to the service, which we would gladly do when funding allows. And also if we could cancel the ADA Act, that would help us out a lot, but we can't do that. But we are here to receive those comments, and we greatly appreciate the City of Willows allowing us to come and to facilitate this hearing. And as I said, after the hearing, I do have some items I'd like to
Very
relate to
good.
the council.
Very good, Marty. I know there'll be some questions for you. So thank you very much. With that, before we open the public hearing, members of the council, do you have any questions or comments? Nothing? Very good. No.
Yeah, I just, what was my question? Sorry. Started reading numbers and I lost my train of thought there for a second. No, just being on the committee for this, Marty, I want to say that the work that you guys have been doing on it, you guys are always trying to find ways to improve it, without this. So the fact that you're willing to go and want to act, and want to get the feedback and want it rather than, have to set these meetings. I honestly feel like you guys actually want the information to make it better rather than, oh, I just have to have a public hearing. So here I am. So I do, staff, I think, do an awesome job. But yeah, I at least wanted to start out with that and appreciate you for coming tonight.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Any further questions, comments from the council before we open the public hearing? Very good. Well, time is 6:51 PM. We'll open a public hearing in reference to the unmet transit needs at this time. We have now come to the public input portion of the hearing. The public hearing is being recorded and is subject to possible review by the courts. Therefore, all statements or remarks must be made clearly and distinctly into the microphone. If there is anyone in the audience who has any pertinent evidence or opinions or statements relevant to issues being heard, please step to the microphone, and although it is not required, it is also requested that you please state and spell your name for the record, and comments are generally limited to 3 minutes. Are there any public comments this evening in reference to the unmet transit needs for the Glenn County Transportation Commission? Any public comments? No public comments? Hearing none, the time is, it's still 6:51 PM. We'll close the public hearing. in Reference to the unmet transit needs at this time. And Marty? You may continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just what I handed to you was just some information that I thought might be of interest to you, showing ridership numbers for the Glen Ride service, which is the larger bus that goes from here to Chico, and then also the Dial Ride service, which is operated here within the city of Willows and out to the mobile home park here that's west of Willows. And then also the volunteer medical service. The one thing I will comment on the volunteer medical service is you'll notice that the numbers have come down quite a bit through the last year. Part of the reason is, unfortunately, people do pass away that use that service. We do transport a number of individuals that have that suffer with kidney issues, and so dialysis is one of the biggest trips that we make with that, or one of the biggest reasons we make those trips. The other reason I bring it up is because we are in desperate need of volunteer drivers. We are looking at other options, but yeah, any chance we get, we try to put the word out. We're actually advertising at the DMV and a few other spots now to try and entice folks, and we've upped the reimbursement rate we give those individuals now, so it's well beyond what the federal reimbursement rate is. So we hope to entice individuals to volunteer. As I said, we are looking at other options. There is can't remember the name now. It's a partnership group. Essentially, their focus is transport of people in need of medical care related to Medi-Cal, and they think that we can either help them or that they can help us in regards to some of those trips. So just to let you know where that's at. In the near future, you will probably see some newer vehicle, not near future, when it's in near future, that's probably like 2 years away, maybe even 3. You'll see some new vehicles on the road. Thankfully, we've been able to stave off the whole zero emissions mandates for a little bit. And we're actually trying to implement some hybrid vehicles, which have been tested pretty well over the last 15, 20 years. So they have a good track record, and we'll be using those. At least it shows some good faith on our part to try and do something. We don't anticipate, unless technology changes pretty dramatically, that we would go to any battery electric options in that regard. The other is we're always looking at stops to improve. We do have a number of solar lighting and seats that we can install. Willows is pretty well situated with shelters. We do have some up in Orland that we need to take care of. Those are kind of a higher priority because there's some dangerous spots there along, well, not dangerous, they're just inconvenient spots along Highway 32 that we're trying to take care of. That's all I have in terms of transit. Take any questions you may have, but I do have a couple other items that I need to relate to you and discuss with you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Any questions, council members? Mr. Bogdan?
Yes, sir, Marty. Could you define ridership?
Basically, just the number of riders that get on and get off of the,
So if I come every day, I'm 5 riders.
no. It's to your origin and destination. So essentially, if you get on in the morning and you get off, that would be 2 riders.
That'd be
that
2
day.
rides. And if
Yeah.
I did that 10 days in a row, it
So
would-
I guess we look at it as rides,
what I'm
not
trying to
necessarily.
determine is the population of people that we're serving with this funding.
I
Because
mean,
if
unique users, unique
unique,
riders.
unique,
How many are there of those?
That would be difficult to nail down. Hold on, Michelle, you better come up this way and introduce yourself for the record.
thank you, Michelle. And if I can elaborate on this, it might help the answer before you do so. So I'm looking at this program and I look at the buses when they drive by and I see them here, there and everywhere. And this is a cost and it serves a population of humans who use it. And if they ride 100 times one person, that's one person we're serving, and technically 200 rides, one on, one off. I just want to know how many unique individuals the funding is serving.
And Michelle, if you could state your name for the record, please. Appreciate it.
Michelle Wahey, I'm the general manager for Glen Ride Paratransit Services. Okay, I've got, I don't know if this will help. So we break it down by trips. We run 6 trips per day. And right now it's school just stopped. So I drove pretty much the month of March, April. I was driving trip 2, which is starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. Or no, that one starts at 6 a.m., leaving the yard we start at 6, leave the yard at 6:30, gets to Chico, returns trip. This was the one that took all your basically passengers for Butte College. We were running a full, if the small bus, it was full. We're running 18 to 24 students to Chico, then returning trips. So you could have anywhere between 20 and 30 passengers for just that trip. So that was just the round trip to Chico and back. That also is your drug court people that are coming back to go to court at 8 a.m. So in general, that trip alone had about 30 passengers, between 20 and 30 passengers daily, Monday through Friday. We run 3 trips on Saturday. Saturdays, we might run 20 passengers at Port Left. That's all day, but we're only running 3 trips. So it goes, we're not like overlapping any trips on Saturday at all. So on that one, it could be 20 passengers a day.
A quick question, if you had 20 passengers.
That's 10 going to Chico, probably 10 coming back.
Very
Not
good.
all of them are doing that.
I know,
However,
But it's still, I'm interested in the 10 number.
the 10 number.
Yeah.
So some of them are, we have people that are going for the weekend. We have people going to school. So it's like some of them are not returning. Some of them are going over, like, we have people that we take over to get rental cars.
Mhm.
You might bring them back 3 weeks later to they return the rental car and then you bring them back. So it's a lot of one ways over. And then you catch right back. We have people that are using the Far Northern program that their workers will bring them back. We take them over, they get a ride home. A lot of those are like the single passengers going from Willows to Orland. And we have several of those that we bill for each month.
Okay, well, again, all government services cost somebody money. And I just want to make sure that the people who are paying are getting good value. And I know the people riding ours, I understand the standard answers. I
Mhm.
just, if we're serving small population of people with a large amount of money, then that's the real question in my head, but it's okay.
I would have to say yes, because actually Glenn County only has a small population. So for what we're using, we are using a lot of resources for the small population.
And you can appreciate that we've been highly motivated to serve our kids, our young, our recreation, the pool, anything we can do to help these young people get something to do, to keep them busy, active, engaged, and educated. So we spent X amount of money serving a population of young people. And we spent X amount of money serving a population of people who get a ride somewhere. I would compare those if I had the ability to do it.
To answer that, your population, like the pool, as an example, only runs 3 months a year. We're running even 12 months a year. And we're using that population for the kids going to school also. We have one guy that we pick up at the fairgrounds in Orland right now that was going to Chico High School every day. He bought a monthly pass. We have one guy that has continued to buy a monthly pass that's going from here to Orland daily. He was going to school. His girlfriend now lives in Orland, so he's still going. His dad came in and bought his pass for the summer. So those things, we're serving those too. We're serving some of them there at the school, I don't know if it's a continuation school there on 32. Their Glenn County Office of Education, that area. We have them that get off at Pabst Avenue. There's like several, and then we have, for some reason, we're having kids from Chico coming in there also that we pick up there off of Pillsbury Road. But we're bringing them over to go to school, I guess.
I think it's neat that you know them by name.
A lot of my drivers know them by name, know where they get off. They don't even have to tell them where they get off. I have really good drivers with really good customer service. If they're ride daily, we know most of
Very good. Thank you.
them.
Thank you, Michelle. And Michelle recently replaced a longtime Glen Ride General Manager Michelle Lang, who did an outstanding job for many years. So thank you, Michelle. You get big shoes to fill, and you're filling them well. So thank you very much. Marty?
Are there any other questions related to transit?
Gentlemen, questions in reference to transit?
Yeah, just one. I'm looking at the Glen Ride ridership form here, and I'm looking at a couple of the months, and essentially between 2021 and 22 to this year, 23, 24, a lot of those numbers have almost doubled. Not quite, but close to. What's the biggest cause for that? Is there more stops? Do we take up a bigger area, or is there just more need for the service that you guys are offering?
No, I think a lot of it is probably more with, as you can, let me give you something else. This will help explain it a little bit better. So I don't know if you know, you guys can't
Yeah,
really see the
that's
numbers
it.
on this. You can't see the numbers on this, but this is the entire history of Glen Ride. And you can see we peaked out in about 2014, 15 with about 66,000 riders. And now when COVID hit, which is these 2 years here, it really took it out.
And
So
fuel costs in those years.
Well, and I want to clarify the term riders versus ridership. They're not the same.
But as things have opened back up, I think as we see more in-person education, really, in that sense, less the remote things, less telemedicine, those kinds of things. I think that's why we're seeing more people. I mean, we were already kind of on an upward trajectory before COVID hit, and then COVID just kind of tanked it all. And so I think it's just that. And as Mayor Hansen alluded to, typically it's a double-edged sword for us. When fuel prices go up, we tend to see people start at the tail end. It's kind of weird, but fuel prices will peak and then they start to come back down. And at kind of the tail end of that, we start to see ridership go up. And I don't know why that phenomenon is the way it is, but maybe it's just people reacting slower, or finally they just can't take it anymore, the pain at the pump, and they see if they can use our service to mitigate that.
Yeah, thank you, Marty. Any further questions? Reference to transit for Marty?
So do you see that number continuing to go up a little bit more until it levels back out again? Or do you think that it's gonna kind of hit its level already?
I think you'll continue to see it go up. I typically, we've seen that
fluctuates, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it fluctuates. I would say what would be typical or average for the service would be somewhere between 30 and 40,000 the ridership would be,
Rides, right?
rides
Okay.
for that year.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the annual cost, including gas, tires, wear and tear, amortization of equipment,
$534,000 was the year to date.
year
after
to
all
date?
expenses.
for 5 months? You said year to date.
Oh, sorry,
Or
your
fiscal
total.
year. Oh, okay.
Fiscal year, yeah.
Never mind.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take
534,000.
take
No,
that
no,
away from
but
you.
it
I
is.
was literally, I just
Five
had
by
read the
50.
number.
It's a large, very large.
It's 532,000 and some change at that
Okay.
point with all the $100 and some odd dollars change.
Yeah.
And a lot of that money is coming from state funding, correct? That-
Well, a lot of it comes from that 1/4 cent sales tax that I referenced. That's
Yes.
part of this, the reason for the hearing.
Yeah, the mandated 1/4% sales tax, dedicated strictly for transit operations.
1/4 cent, it's 1/4 cent.
What, that's what I said, one
1/4 cent,
quarter.
yeah.
I said 1/4%.
Cents, not percent.
1/4.
1%.
quarter.
1/4 cent, sorry.
1/4.
Yes. Yeah, we need. to
Okay.
finish the trigger.
That's why it's 7.25%.
Yeah,
That's the 0.25%.
Yeah.
But, and it is it's mandated, state
By
mandated.
who? By the state of
By
California?
the state of California, absolutely, absolutely.
Well-
And that's why we provide transit services, years ago before Glen Ride was formed, it was, the contract was with Jimmy's.
Jimmy's Cab?
Service, yes, absolutely. But how many buses total, Marty, are you running? Could you please, speak about the full-size Gilligs and also the Dial a Ride?
sure.
So-
So we are currently running 5 larger buses. And we're running 4 of the, they're about 20-foot, 22-foot long, smaller vehicles, or the E450 Ford chassis.
Yeah.
Those are actually pretty old. They're 2009 makes. We haven't used them a whole lot. We've tried to fit them in where we can, but so a lot of them are still good and will run until they die. Same with the Gilligs. The Gilligs have been through a lot, and they're still coming along, and our mechanics and our drivers take good care of them. So we were able to leverage them quite a bit because they're not cheap. They're about $500,000 a piece. So.
Yeah, absolutely. The paratransit staff and paratransit just, was actually, we have a brand new contract just renewed with paratransit. They they have provided outstanding professional service for a number of years to the Transportation Commission managing Glen Ride, managing and operating Glen Ride. And, they take excellent care of the equipment. Like Marty said, the Gillig buses powered by Cummins diesel engines have been phenomenal and hold up extremely well. The drivers are such good drivers that, I mean, the brakes go on forever and ever before brake. It's really impressive with that much driving. But it is a mandated service. And, I'd like to also point out that we just renewed another Butte College contract. And Butte College has been an outstanding partner in reference to, the number of patrons of the service. And now, especially with the Butte College Center in Orland. Although we don't have one in South Lane County like we used to have, but anyway, let's say Butte College has been a great, just a great partner. And, just want to thank the paratransit staff for doing a good job. And Marty, you and your team, you're the consummate professional. You've got, outstanding staff. You have, Ashley Veneman also on board. She's great. And, Marty and his team work extremely hard, and they have just an unbelievable amount of mandated reports that they have to churn out every year. I don't know how many, too many, dozens of them. They have to churn out every year, the state and federal agencies for this, and they do an outstanding job. So, all in all, I've been a member of the Glen County Transportation Commission, chair it now, and have for a number of years. Since I was elected city council, it's just a pleasure working with you and your team, Marty, and also the paratransit team. So thank you. for what
Mr.
you
Mayor?
do. So go ahead. if you
I
had
just
any
have
further-
2 other things. One is, I think if you have not already, your financial folks hopefully know this, but we received the Regional Surface Transportation Block Grant funding. So that's just money that comes straight from the federal government. We are in an exchange program with the state, so we exchange the federal dollars for state dollars, and they pass along to us. What that just means is you can spend them a little easier than if you had gotten them directly from the feds. So those funds came, and we pushed those out the door. So I hope that those came in. Was like $120,000 somewhere in that neighborhood. So just so you know, those came, which is pretty rare, but that they come in the same fiscal year that they're allocated. So Caltrans was on the ball on that one. The second thing is related to this. So the reason we go through this unmet needs process is if there are no unmet needs defined or identified, we can take some of the LTF funding, the funding that comes from that quarter-cent sales tax, and apply that to other purposes, some of those being pedestrian needs or roads. So because paratransit has been such a good partner and they've been efficient in operating the transit system, over the course of the years, we've amassed some excess funding in that regard. So we have about $2 million that's excess money. Now, if I were to allocate that based on the commission's prescribed allocation, that would look like something like $1 million to the county and $500,000 to both the cities, Willows and Orland, which doesn't get you very far, as you probably are aware, because the cost of your project there on Pacific Avenue netted you, I don't know, what, 3/4 of a mile or half a mile, something like that, for all those improvements and at a cost of about $1 million. So it doesn't get you very far. So what I've approached the commission on and want to let you know about is that we'd like to use that excess money and see if we can't leverage other funding. So for example, if the city council or the city is going after funding that's related to, say, any of the grants that have come out from the infrastructure bill, from the federal infrastructure bill, like the RAISE grant or anything like that, we could then provide you with match funding for that. So if you had a $4 million project and you needed a 10% match, we could provide you with the $400,000 as a match to that project to leverage that money. And that's what I'm proposing that we do. So the commission still has to approve that, but I wanted to get that on your radar so that if you are looking at transportation projects, road projects that you can leverage those other funds for, then we can provide the match for those funds. So currently we're with the county, we have a safety project we need to take care of, and it's roughly that same amount. It's about $4 million, and they need about a $452,000 match, which we'll take a look at and see. And that all has to be approved by the commission. So it's not a sure thing. We have to put it before the commission, but it is something I think would be very beneficial to the area rather than just allocating you the money, because it doesn't do you much good. It doesn't go very far at all in terms of your maintenance costs and other things for roads. But if we can match it up with other funds that get you a bigger project, that's what we'd want to see, because that then multiplies the purchasing power of that money and also gets us a better project for your constituents. So just wanted to put that on your radar so that if you are contemplating a project or something like that, that we can then provide a match or a look at that. And we'd have to talk with you, scope it out, obviously. So the one caveat to that is then you would be subject to audit. Our annual audit, you'd be required to report on how you spent the funds and all those different things, and our auditor would put you through the ringer on that. So just be aware that comes with a cost in that regard. So I don't want to give you the idea that that'll be without some pain in terms of reporting. But I just wanted to let you know.
Spring, it would be worth pulling on.
Yeah.
Sounds like hurt me more.
No, it'll be actually.
Nothing's free.
Yeah, unfortunately, we lost our auditor who was really good and worked with us. And so we'll have to have a new firm here shortly. But yeah, again, my intent is just to see if we can't maximize some of the purchasing power that we can leverage through grants or any other funding that might be available to the city in that regard related to transportation, of course. So putting that out there. So if you have plans on the money, the other part of that was in our discussion. If you have plans that you're working on related to transportation, please approach the staff at the Transportation Commission regarding that, because we do have planning money that we receive every year. Sometimes it's a little bit of a struggle for us to find a good project for that to be applied to. There also are grants that we could leverage with the planning money that we are allocated so that we can actually, in a similar fashion, maximize or augment what we're given each year. So Councilmember Sprague has had an interest in a wayfinding project. So if we needed to put together a plan so that you could then leverage money for that, we'd be willing to look at that and help you put together, the RFP, have you help you, your folks would probably have to scope it. We could help you with the RFP, get it out there. And then either, manage the project from the standpoint of we'll get the bills and we'll pay them. And you guys are working with whoever it is that's doing the project, those kinds of things. Just like the active transportation plan that we provided a few years ago, that allows you to be able to try and access, the active transportation dollars that are available through the state. So we are certainly willing to help get those plans put together, because my experience has been, you get the plans put together, then you can show that there's a need for the funding. You can then get the money for your engineering and everything, and then actually get money for construction and put the project together on the ground. So anywhere we can assist with the planning process, that's what we're here to do. And like I said, we have those funds available, and we'd like to see them used wherever they'd be most beneficial. So, and again, it's not, we can't say that we can give everybody money. It may have to be one project at a time, and everybody's get in line and wait while we do this, but we can do what we can to try and ease some of that pain you might have in terms of finding funds, because everybody has cash flow issues. And so we'd love to see if we can try and alleviate those if we can.
Very good, Marty. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Very much.
I like your out of the box thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Marty just brought that plan to our attention in our last meeting. It will be agendized at a future meeting for discussion. So I think it makes perfect sense. So thank you, Marty. Any further questions from the council for Marty while we have him?
Just a quick comment. I am working with Ashley very productively in regard to that wayfinding sign project and whatnot. So, as council knows, we set aside the $4,700 from the facade improvement program for that. And I was notified just a week or so ago that it looks like we'll be approved for a grant from PG&E to go for that project as well. I think the city manager has been in contact with the representative for PG&E to make sure that we've got the fiscal agency process set up. I haven't heard any more about how much that grant might be. She was hoping for as much as $10,000 for that too. So I'm anxious to sit down again with Ashley and see what else we can end up doing. So thank you for your help in regard to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
Thanks, Marty.
Your time.
Thank
Thank
Marty.
you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming down. Have a good night. Thank you, Michelle. Well, moving back to our discussion and action calendar, item 7B, I-5 feasibility study final project. We are going to receive the presentation and accept and consider acceptance of the I-5 feasibility study. Joe Bencourt, Community Development Services Director. Joe, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members. So a little background on this project. This was a grant that was 3Corps received from the USDA in the amount of $60,000. Originally, I believe it was between the partners were the city of Orland and the city of Corning. They approached the city of Willows to join for a $15,000 CAS match. We approved that at the September 13th, 2022 city council meeting, and became a part of this project. And also Glenn County was the other jurisdiction that was a part of this project. So we've been, they contracted, 3Corps contracted with DSG Advisors out of Ohio to complete the study. And the overall goal, well, not the overall goal, we'll get into the goals here in a little bit, but it's a regional effort to try to identify sites between these communities and identify strengths, weaknesses, and so on. Okay, so as mentioned, the jurisdictions are Willows, Orland, Corning, and Glenn County. You'll see some other areas in pink. These are simply there because they're basically impact employment, consumer goods markets for areas that surround us. The study objective is to pinpoint specific sites and geographic areas for future economic development. These purposes include the following goals. Would be identify candidate sites for new and expanding commercial and industrial operations. Identify the highest and best uses for sites that are likely to generate near-term significant and measurable economic return. Identify infrastructure gaps needed to make investment work. Explore opportunities to diversify the local economy. And outline the steps needed to implement and attract branding strategies to showcase to communities outside investment.
And also the final one, to develop a report that can be utilized for future grant infrastructure applications. So they went through and identified strengths throughout the communities. I'm going to focus mainly on Willows. Obviously, as mentioned 4 or 5 times before, this is a large document that contains information regarding all 4 jurisdictions. So when we look at strengths, we see location. This has been identified before. We're, a halfway point between Portland and the Port of Long Beach. You can see some other things they mentioned in this was truck commerce increases. It's the needed stopping point halfway along this route. We've also got Shasta and Reading that is could be an impassable road or a place to want to stop before you go. So the location of these jurisdictions is a high strength for us. Market depletion. This has to do with other areas, market depletion, Sacramento, Chico, where they've got limited availability in industrial parks. And we have a cheaper real estate market and more availability in area to build. Near-term sites. Willows actually did really well for near-term sites. You'll see a lot of the other jurisdictions have a lot of sites, but they don't have many developed sites. Our 2 near-term sites would be South Willows Industrial Park and also the North Humboldt Avenue area. Rail access, but basically that's just nice that we've got a rail that can be used by industrial and be built out along all of 99, and our whole town is surrounded by it, so that's a benefit. And Thunder Hill Park, obviously we know that this is a huge attraction and the reason why we have so many hotels and brings a lot of people into our area. Better promotion and expanding the program could be seen to increase flow and subsequent economic impact within the city. Okay, weaknesses. So market-ready property, as I mentioned before, Willows does have 2 Tier 1 market-ready properties. Tier 1 site is defined as those that are ready or nearly ready for immediate development. Of the 13 Tier 1 sites, the 3 sites closest to being ready for development, one is the Corning Crossroads, and then the other 2 are both in Willows at the North Valley Commercial Center and the North Humboldt Avenue area. Tier 1 means that it's ready for that it already has water, sewer, electric at or near site. Development is consistent with adjacent development patterns. Zoning and general plan land use designation are aligned and support development, and property asking price is aligned with the market. Resource capacity. Current economic developmental organizational capacity is not sufficient to reliably drive new investment for the corridor. The ability to showcase community assets and property readiness are needed to attract outside investment. Like many small communities throughout the country, there's limited capacity along the I-5 corridor. Especially in Willows, we see this as staffing resources or the ability to gain economic development funds or contract with other businesses that can get out and market those strategies for us. Brand and marketing. The outside world knows little about this section of I-5 corridor as compared to places like Reading or Sacramento. They did mention our marketing campaign that we used with previous grant funds of the Find Your Refuge and having materials like that. They did make a comment about the Find Your Refuge kind of being maybe mixed up with the Sacramento Wildlife Refuge, but overall it was used as an example to show what kind of documents should be used to promote the area. And again, ends up being more of a group effort on this. It was pointed out that we should look to identify things throughout all 4 of these jurisdictions that we can use to market the area. All right, opportunities. It's a corridor region. Obviously, it's I-5. It's a unique place. We have a lot of travelers up and down I-5. Brand marketing, creating awareness that the I-5 corridor exists, telling a story that builds presence, beginning to present the unique benefits of the region as a whole, supported with facts or proofs of points. Existing sites, we don't have a huge profile of buildings, but there is enough to start getting the word out about this area and hopefully invite businesses to them. Business investment targets. This is based on I-5 community assets and corporate location investment trends at local, regional, national, and global levels. These investment targets offer the best chance of attracting investment projects to the area over the next 5 years. We'll go through some of these investment targets later. Some of them include cold storage, like we've identified in other feasibility studies. And emerging market sector, this one's pretty interesting. This looked at the electric vehicles and truck stops. We know Orland has truck stops all over the place where we don't have any, but there is an opportunity as California mandates come in to offer electric vehicle charging stations, heavy duty electric vehicle charging stations. We've got room for develop in South Willows. It would be a great off ramp outside of even though our town's small, still gets them outside of that. So those kinds of things, power generation. This would be more solar farm kinds of things. We've got open area that could develop that, charging station infrastructure. Again, being a good midway point for people to stop and pull over and charge their vehicles on a heavy duty level or a regular level. Threats, rural setting. New investment is typically slow in rural settings compared to larger cities. Infrastructure can be challenging, and we know it's a lot of things just don't pencil out due to our population. Infrastructure to support growth. Infrastructure development's a challenge. It is often a threat to not moving private industry into this. We can use, South Willows as an example of that. If we were able to work with or get sidewalks, roads, street lighting, all those kinds of things out there, it would be more attractive to developers as that would relieve that cost from them. And housing. Shortage of affordable housing could limit the area and could slow other development. It's just another market factor. It can't be controlled by the jurisdiction. But again, I'll go back to out in South Willows, we've got a planned development out there that could alleviate some of that threat in Basin Street. Okay, so we'll get into the site analysis. I kind of went through these already for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Basically, tier 1's your most market ready, tier 2 needs some assistance, and tier 3 is more than 5 years out from being developed. The site analysis for the city of Willows, if you look at this map, you can see that the South Willows Commercial Center is number 41, is considered a tier 1. And then all of our Humboldt Street properties are considered tier 1 as well. And then they analyzed 2 other tier 2, one being our wastewater treatment plant location, and the other being the area just to the north of Walmart, and then one tier 1 location, which is an orchard even further to the north of Walmart on Humboldt. These are the investment targets that they identified earlier.
Sorry, Joe, can I ask a quick question
Yeah.
on this? I'm looking at the map, number 37, that orchard that it's kind of representing, I'm assuming that's what it's representing, right? Is the
Yes.
orchard that's behind Walmart?
Yeah.
Where would access to that come?
It would have to be developed, and that's why I believe it's a tier 2 target. So access to that would either come down the road on the edge of Walmart and come back in that way or another way. But
Because I
Yeah.
thought that road kind of dead ended into their water tank, does it not?
it does.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah,
So it would have to be developed or planned, and that's
Okay.
the major barrier too.
and is that orchard is not already, we're talking about, we'd have to annex that section into the city limits.
No, I believe that orchard is in the city limits.
What page is it?
29 or 81, depending on which number you look at. Sorry, that was just my couple of questions.
Yeah, no.
Apparently I need to look at my city map again.
On that same subject, is there a reason they did not address the 8 acres at 57 and I-5 and 99 that we
Well-
just served water to?
Initially on the study, they missed some things very early on, even in North Humboldt. They basically only had South Willows. So when we did our initial meeting to go over the draft / final report that they introduced it as, they didn't have North Humboldt on there. So I basically, we emailed them and then said that this isn't an acceptable version of this report. So we fought very hard to even get North Humboldt on this map. Initially, they wanted us to pay additional funding in order to do that. And we kind of stood our ground and wrote them a nice email explaining that the scope of work was not completed as it was described. And so we got that in there. So basically we fought tooth and nail to include those properties, and it was just the funding was up. They ended up doing that. 3Corps did that on their behalf, not
And
PSG.
Corps actually added North Humboldt.
On
but
there.
The contractor consultant.
Didn't do any
Wouldn't
of
do
it.
it
And
unless
south
they
of
paid them.
57, there's some developed lots ready to be built.
Yeah,
They
Yep.
can't be more shovel ready than that.
yeah, no, absolutely.
And they're not in here either.
No,
We appreciate the council's frustration fully and are right there with you with feeling like this report and study, quote unquote, is not comprehensive by any stretch. It really probably doesn't,
No, it's
Further-
long,
it's
but it's
long,
not comprehensive.
right? And
Mhm.
it doesn't further our efforts for economic development. I mean, probably any one of us could have written this report ourselves for this.
You've done a map, put some color dots on it.
Yeah, Mr. Bencourt, isn't it ironic that an I-5 feasibility study does not include the very street that fronts I-5?
yeah, you know, it was brought up to them that these are on our website, so they're about as easy as things to find. So yeah, we had some issues, absolutely.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah,
And how much did this cost us? in
15,000,
60,000 total. right?
15,000.
Our contribution was
I
15,000.
know, but it's some
And it-
people paid 60 grand for this.
Oh, they paid a lot more than that because it was 15,000 per jurisdiction contribution. So
1.5, not 50, 1.5.
1.5,
Okay.
15.
I
Yeah.
thought you said
15.
5.
And it-
zero.
$120,000.
Well, that's the question. I'm curious.
No, it
What
was
this little,
$15,000 per jurisdiction. Where did you get the other 60,000?
Well, because it,
For the grant
there was a
funding,
grant of 15,000, 60,000, right?
correct.
And then we have a match. Orland has a match, county has a match,
right.
Orland has a match. That's 4 times 15, that's 60 grand, plus the 60 is 120.
That's correct. I thought you were just saying, what did we as jurisdictions
we-
contribute? So yes, if you add the grant money in, that is correct. And we used ARPA funds here at the city of Willows.
No,
for
I mean, I
15,000.
think we have a consensus that the study isn't perfect. And we need to spend a lot of time on it.
That's up to the council's discretion. It's not my.
How do you
call.
feel,
If we
Joe?
don't accept it,
Nothing.
Nothing.
So
No, the check's been cashed.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
only benefit that the major benefit I would say of the document, and I use major very lightly here, would be as used as a supporting document for grant funding, to be able to point to this and say, we've done analysis. We did a cold storage feasibility study. It's identifying the need, at least in a formal document, for infrastructure improvements, but yeah, other than that, you know, it's probably things that most of us knew need to happen in order to improve these
And I,
sites.
I mean,
I
I just
would
kind of
just say
feel
it's
like
worth-
Willows got thrown in. They say, hey, throw $15,000 at this.
right?
And then honestly.
well, I
the
can
other-
tell you
the
what
other
happened.
jurisdictions
They,
got
Three
huge.
Corps came to the city initially and we did not have the bandwidth to entertain it or think about it. There weren't any staff. And
Yeah.
just before they pulled the trigger on actually hiring the contractor, they came back to us again, to the city. And by then we had sorted out some of our finances, because when they first came, I said, I don't know what we have. We had some ARPA funds. And I asked the council, which is a prior council,
Yeah.
if they wanted to contribute 15,000 of ARPA funds to the project, knowing that we didn't have actually any staff at the time to really manage it, but Three Corps was going to manage it. So that seemed easier to handle and we seemed to have the money at the time.
Right. And this seems like this isn't on anybody. I'm not saying this is on.
No, no,
Willows.
yes, I
No,
realize
no,
that.
I'm just, we have, what, a total of 5 properties on here, while the other jurisdictions have 20?
Yep.
Guess they ran
And-
out of money when they
and
got to
we're-
Willows.
Yeah.
And it was Tri-Counties Economic Development before it was 3Corps. And didn't I say a couple meetings ago, we should not join them? I mean, we need to make a statement to our citizens that these kinds of expenditures are going to be grilled and refused in the future.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on left field here. I just had the question on that number because that was
Yeah.
going through me.
No, you're
So
fine.
Okay, we do left
continue.
field.
I'd at least like to finish hearing what.
We're almost at the end anyways. So the investment targets that they looked at for the North Valley Commercial Center, which is South Willows, is cold storage. We, had a feasibility study on its own done of that, I believe in 2018. Light industrial, commercial, general manufacturing and logistics. And in North Humboldt Avenue, light industrial commercial was the investment target cited. Actions, Master Plan Center is being actively marketed for Basin Street properties. Rumiano Cheese is a current existing tenant. Connect with national cold storage brokers and developers, potential to support local food producers. And that actually was done in the feasibility study, if I recall correctly. That was a big part of it, was reaching out to people in the business and seeing their desire to locate up here. One barrier to this that we know is PG&E costs, and that's throughout the state, but those can be offset through solar and other things. And then discuss if there's opportunity, potential for city to build speculative light industrial warehouse, meet with local and regional light industrial developers to promote site for speculative industrial development. Obviously, if you build it, they will come kind of mentality on that. Funding for that at the city of Willows is probably pretty limited and would involve private investors building facilities for businesses coming in. North Humboldt Avenue, the south parcel zoned CH, northern two are CG, so that's general commercial and highway commercial. Determine if rezone is needed to accommodate proposed development. That action is pretty pretty low hanging fruit and probably not needed from the study. Any additional questions I would love to take?
Council members, any further questions for Joe in reference to this air quote report? Mr. Hudson.
Well, you had mentioned one thing which caught my attention that I am glad that we did obviously have this study read. You mentioned sidewalks, streets and lighting and Basin Street. Now, along with what we had heard earlier about possibly some match grant funding and the transit giving us potential for giving them us a little bit of cushion to match that. Is there anything that's possibly out there for us to apply for to get that initial infrastructure built?
CDBG grants or what come to mind, like Marty mentioned, active transportation grants, but I don't know, or ATP program. But yeah, there's potential. There's USDA infrastructure grants. It just depends. What we're looking at right now is the federal budget and issues with those and what is going to be coming out this year for grants. The California budget doesn't help us either, so it could be limited, but we're on the lookout for those kinds of opportunities.
No, when I read that they want to go electric vehicles by 2035,
Yep.
but we have rolling brownouts and they have no idea what the electric strain is going to be on our networks.
And that's kind of the, I think some of the fear in investing in the electric infrastructure, the plan and the ability to achieve are probably two different things on timing.
And then where's their maintenance plan for when stuff starts going bad in 20 to 30 years when I'm ready to retire? There isn't one. So anyways, that's a whole nother tangent. But anyways, yeah, since you were both here, I thought that'd be a great,
Yeah, absolutely.
something to kind of bring up and ask a question on that. If those two things can kind of work hand in hand so we can get that development going and work on one of our new goals in our action plan. That's all I have, Mayor. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Sprague?
I have a couple comments, if I might.
Yes.
First off, I think if I understood what David was pointing out in regard to tri-counties, economic development and so on. My frustration going back when I was on the Board of Supervisors and we had at that time, we had a Glenn County Economic Development Corporation. And that had a substantial amount of money, but most of that money went into tri-counties economic development. And my frustration was that whatever product we got kind of put us on an even keel with Butte County and Tehama County. It was similar to this. It was an overall regional study as opposed to something specific for Glenn County. One of the things that the Board of Supervisors did, we disassociated or disengaged to a certain extent from Tri-County's economic development. And we kept that money in-house. And we actually hired staff and we started doing some of our own in-house Glenn County economic development. I'm pleased to say that the staff that we hired for that was in fact our own Lori Pry. And Lori did one excellent job of doing what she wanted to do to promote Glenn County at large. I remember actually she had hosted an event at her house, as I did at my place in Artois, to to entertain some potential business people and so on. But Lori found herself in that, from my perspective, I'll let her speak on this herself, if she's inclined, but from my perspective, Lori was stuck serving two masters. And the situation kind of deteriorated from there. We had a vision as a board of supervisors, but Tri-Counties had a different vision. And I can understand why, because if they get their funding from a myriad of sources, they want to satisfy a myriad of sources as opposed to focusing on one particular region. So I think that's one of my frustrations with 3-Corps and what is now 3-Corps. Also, I'd like to go back to, I was on the Glenn County Planning Commission in either 91 or 92 when we originally approved Walmart because it was in the county. And at that time, what we as a county planning commission and the board adopted was in fact the Walmart facing I-5 being the anchor of, I think, 3 or 4 more stores to the north and 3 or 4 more stores to the south. It would be a mini Anderson, what do they call that? Pardon me?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, outlets. Outlet
outlets,
mall.
Many outlets and so on. But for whatever reason, the board lost control of that. It seemed like then the city annexed that portion of the world and changed its location. So it kind of really prohibited now with its location, a lot of the expansion up there. But anyway, back to that, a couple of things here I want to point out. When we talk about rail access on page 63, and it identifies number 2, City of Willows owned property east of the water treatment plant. Marketing wise, I don't want to identify something just east of the sewer ponds. What they did leave out of it is it was also the city dump. Now, that's not the most attractive from a narrative perspective on that. But I would also point out what this leaves out, Joe, is a lot of our potential railroad sites that are still on the 99 corridor. Now, not that I want a factory there particularly, but is there some sort of opportunity there? The other thing that I point out, there were several things that I took issue with this. One of the threats is it says that communities along the I-5 corridor are rural and small and mid-sized regional centers within 30 to 40 miles. I'm looking on page 70, reading on page 70 on it. That's one of the things that we promote that's good about Willows. And here they're identifying that as a threat. I take a little bit of issue with that. Also says infrastructure often is a challenge to secure for owners and developers to invest in because costs do not pencil. As a builder developer, I can suggest to you that most of the on-site development costs are going to be the same wherever you're building in regional California. But what makes Willows a little bit more attractive from my perspective is the cost of our dirt. So to me, if we promote it properly, I think we have a less cost associated with development in the city of Willows. So I take issue with that. And then, of course, it points out housing as being a detriment, lack of housing being a detriment to community growth and so on. Here's the bottom line. For statistical information and general information, this is probably a good, I can't say it's worth our investment, but it's worth something. But there's no action in here. What we approved tonight for our priority setting, these are actions. This might be information, backup information, but these are the actions that we should be focusing on. I think this will get us on the road of thriving Willows once again. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, you're welcome, Mr. Sprague. Mr. Vaughn?
I think I already said everything that I
I'm
need.
sorry?
Well, I mean, like you said, Mr. Sprague, one's a file document and the other one's a working document.
Right.
And since we have a commitment not to file money in the file cabinets, we shouldn't be doing that down the road. I honestly think we should say, thanks, but no thanks, and see if it makes a statement to anyone as to the veracity, the intent, and the aggressive behavior of this council and this city going forward to the benefit of all. So, I mean, the study was, one part of it said this was done before, back sometime prior, and and nothing happened. I mean, if you put that in your report, you answered the question. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Mr. Thomas?
Well, I would move that we accept the presentation, but decline the completion, or receive the presentation and not accept, receive the presentation and not accept the completion of the I-5 feasibility study
Okay,
as insufficient and did not meet the requirements or expectations, whatever the proper term is.
Could we,
Soften that?
could I make a friendly amendment or just suggest?
Absolutely.
How about I suggest a friendly amendment?
remember.
Of course.
we-
You know,
We have public comment to take also, and I have some comments to make, so,
understood.
so, Rick, we'll come back to your motion.
Okay.
We'll come back to. the
Well, I
motion.
want to hear what Barney had to say.
Yes, absolutely.
Please.
Now or later?
Well, might as well go now.
All I was gonna say was that somehow maybe it's just saying that although it is not comprehensive, nor is it complete, the study, that the council accepts it purely for the purposes of marketing and for applying for grant applications and submissions.
You mean like the
So
council
that
accept?
we could post it somewhere and use it, because if you say you don't accept it, it gets hard to use it. If anybody did any research and said, well, you're putting this as supporting documentation for a grant application, but your own governing body didn't accept it.
Okay,
It's
so
a
we could
little-
move to accept it under duress.
I withdraw my motion.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
suggesting, I mean, I think there's a way to say the motion and say you have complete, utter disappointment
knows what
while
duress
still
means.
accepting it. That's all.
This is, you're
Yeah, well-
essentially saying this is the fluff that is needed when we do grants.
It would be helpful.
This
Well,
is, this
yes.
is that little bit of extra whipped cream that you asked for
And-
in your coffee.
And then we
Okay.
can,
There
then
you
we
go.
can have this $15,000 document, whatever that
But
turns out.
please
for
voice
paid
your
on-
disdain.
On the shelf. So there you go. Any further council comments before we go to public comment?
I don't want to be so sick, it sounds so skeptical of this. They're ideally, and I've already perused through it, as you can see, I've marked it up pretty good. There is some very good information, support information for projects that if we were to put out a brochure, for instance, on a particular piece of property. There are some good statistical information in this for location and that type of thing. So it's not a total waste. It's just, again, it's a document for research, for information compared to an action. plan. That's the point. I'm
Yes,
trying to
I agree.
make.
I agree.
I have one question for
Yes,
Joe.
yes.
Joe, does this help you in what your job is here at the city?
It could be a resource, there's certainly parts of it to take from. It's when grant applications, a technical document of any kind, when you can point out a bit and say that it was a completed study, helps out narrative and qualitative data versus having some sort of quantitative data. It does help on grant applications for sure.
From I guess from your perspective, would essentially something that we did with our visions and goal setting be more suitable, or we strictly limit it to the city of Willows, be more suited to our needs rather than trying to do a joint?
We
venture
didn't
like
pick
this?
that.
Depends on the kind of grant
Yeah.
application. If it's a grant application that's trying to show regional cooperation, then something like this would be helpful. I mean, for sure.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, we have a county supervisor that hasn't been to a city council meeting, who's supposed to be covering the city. So,
Yeah, regional effort, the point of this going after a regional effort was kind of to introduce the idea. I think the overall, you guys are all small, you all have limited resources. Try to pool these resources, try to come together and market this area as a whole, and then be competitive down to your own individual influences. So it was about being something bigger, having more purchasing power, you would say, in these kinds of things. Sometimes there's multi-jurisdictional grants, not always, but I think this was based towards more, obviously it's got multi-purposes, some better than others, but would be seen as coming together as marketing as an area because we all are so similar in our agricultural and small town nature.
sorry, that's all I.
Very good. Any further council comments? Any public comments in reference to this item? Hearing none. Yeah, just briefly, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but I agree with Mr. Sprague's comments that, you know, this is a general high-level document. And if you're not familiar with the city of Willows at all, or the Willows area, it could have value. It does have some good statistical information in it. The only thing I learned though, as an active engaged council member, are what the APN numbers were, which is sad. When we agreed to move forward with this study, I envisioned it as, you know, being, similar to the cold storage feasibility study that we had, which was a study, which was an effective, complete document, which pointed out a number of things that this sort of touched on about rail access, freeway access, PG&E, lack of power supply, that sort of. But it was a comprehensive document. This is a general overview, not completely worthless, but it's worthless as far as I'm concerned as a member of the city council. I learned a lot about Corning. I could care less about the city. I don't live in Corning. I'm not going to live in Corning, but you know, anyway, I was very disappointed. And you know, 3Corps has different leadership now, and we have 3Corps has been a viable partner a number of times with city council in my tenure here, and especially in reference to some Basin Street development obstacles with the EDA grant. They were fantastic to work with, and that's when Mark Newmanic was executive. Well, he's retired, and it's a different 3Corps, unfortunately. So I think that it will be, I'm sure that will be in a future agenda item discussion about our future with 3Corps. I believe
It's in
you
your
have
budget.
consensus of the council for a future consent agenda item in reference to moving forward with 3Corps in the future. But if you're an engaged, active council member or, you know, an engaged, educated citizen, this doesn't have much value. $15,000 is sad. We could have done a lot with that $15,000 of ARPA funding. I mean, we've got maintenance issues here that we need to address. We have you know, there's always things breaking, right? Right now, our ladder trucks out of commission, waiting repairs that, you know, we don't have the money to fix. It'd have been nice to use that $15,000 to fix that, but that's all I'm going to say about it. It's a disappointment. But with that, Councilmember Thomas, you were.
Well, I think
contemplating
somebody with a
making
little bit more
motion.
eloquence than I should make the motion.
Oh, you're quite.
I make a motion to approve the document as given, with a note that we are not satisfied that it met the goals that the city of Willows was hoping to ascertain from such document.
I'll second the motion.
Vice Mayor Hudson has moved and Councilmember Sprague has seconded to receive the document, accept the document. However, we are extremely dissatisfied with the document as prepared. That's unfair. Perfect. Fair. Very good. It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7C, Glen Groundwater Authority funding. Consider approval of a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Glen Groundwater Authority for a not to exceed amount of on the agenda, it reads as $7,159 per year over the next 3 fiscal years. The actual number as amended will be $6,723.31, and we'll get into that momentarily. City Manager Marty Brown.
I was gonna let you present that,
Sure.
Mayor Hanson, since you've done most of the talking on this item the last few times. I do just want to acknowledge the council that I believe on the dais, there's a correction that came from you. Thank you very much on the number of parcels and what the actual cost to the council, well, not to the council, to the city would be out of the general fund. It's a little less than was originally calculated, just over $6,000. Other than that, I wasn't going to say too much about it. I was going to let you present.
Oh, very good. Very
Mayor
good, Marty.
Hanson.
Thank you. And gentlemen, I've done my best to try to keep you as informed as possible about the actions and that we've taken as, you know, as a board, as the Glen Groundwater Authority. within our jurisdiction here. And I know I see I see the eyes glaze over sometimes. I understand. I understand. We spent nearly I don't know, nearly a 4-hour meeting today discussing these very same issues. So anyway, it can be painstaking. So thank you for bearing with me through all of those reports and updates as we move forward. But in defense of staff, off the top of my head, when Marty and I were discussing this matter, I threw out an approximate acreage, City Willows at about 1,840 acres or so, and those are the numbers Marty utilized. The actual acreage, which I now keep in my notes on my phone, that the City of Willows encompasses with the incorporated city limits are 1,737.29 acres approximately. City of Orland has approximately 1,841.60 acres. So as you recall, we have 4 user classes in the City of Willows and Orland. We are now operating under the urban user fee class. And we moved away from our flat fee from 5 years ago in 2019 when we first brought forward a parcel fee, as we are facing litigation on that now, trying to be fair and honest with all concerns. So our current fee report, which the board approved at today's meeting, has these 4 user classifications. So I've already outlined what they are to you before. I can go into detail on those if you'd like, the other user fee classifications. But moving away from our current now maximum fee at $1.93 per acre, we have been Groundwater Authority in total as a whole has been operating under a parcel fee of $1.50 per acre for the past 4 years. First year of operation, I believe we maintained we had a $1.61 per acre flat fee. With all of the requirements in managing groundwater sustainability put upon us by the state of California, and they are extensive, we have been forced to raise our maximum parcel fees. And that's the only reason we're having this discussion tonight. So at my request, the board has graciously agreed to an urban user fee classification, which encompasses the incorporated cities within our jurisdiction of the Groundwater Authority, which are the cities of Willows and the cities of Orland. And I've advised you before that the reason the required recommendation is to continue for the cities to pay the parcel related fees on behalf of the citizens of the property owners in the City of Willows and the City of Orland, or simply to save administrative fees, administrative costs preparing all of those small parcels. For example, I'm on my parcel I own here in the city is 2,600ths of an acre. So what would it cost to process 2,600 an acre at say $1.50 fee, or say at the maximum new fee at $3.87? You do the math on that. What are the administrative costs? Well, there are administrative costs. It's all taxpayer money in the end, as well as private money. I have property outside of the city limits as well that, which is surface water irrigated. But anyway, since the incorporated cities primarily use groundwater, we are de minimis users here. So it is a service we're providing, paying the fee on behalf of the citizens and the property owners, City of Willows, and it is saving administrative fees. So the maximum fee has been set for the next 5 years at $3.87 per acre. That's not to say that's going to be the fee that's charged. The recommended fee from our consultants, the first year of operations, and the urban fee would be $3.68 per acre. The second year would be $3.87, which is the maximum. The third year would drop down to $3.65. Year 4 would be $3.76. In year 5 of our 5-year plan, it would be $3.86. These are approximations, and they are close approximations. The urban user fee is slightly more than the surface water fee, but significantly less than the groundwater user fee. So I think this is, my recommendation is this is good business moving forward. there's a lot of moving parts to this. It's all about reaching groundwater sustainability within 20 years as mandated by the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, also known as SIGMA. You heard me say that God knows how many times here. But that's the process in a nutshell. And again, that was approved today by the Board of Directors of Glen Groundwater Authority moving forward with this. Again, this is not a Proposition 218, but we're following the process, but we're following the Proposition 218 criteria for the parcel. And we're doing that just to be transparent and accountable to the public. And we are trying our best to make sure that all members or all property owners within the Groundwater Authority are fully aware of what the situation is and what is required of the Groundwater Authority moving forward. And the good news is we're a very fiscally conservative body. As I mentioned, we maintain $1.50 an acre fee, well below our maximum assessed fee. And that is the goal of the board moving forward. So who knows, it may be, these numbers may be high. So, but worst case scenario, the annual cost of the city of Willows would be $6,723.31 per year paid to the Groundwater Authority. And it does save significant monies that are still taxpayer money in reduced administrative fees for processing the small parcels within the cities. Same thing that our sister agency, the Colusa Groundwater Authority, of the same arrangement that the Colusa Groundwater Authority, like I say, has with the cities of Colusa and Williams. We're operating the same model that we're operating, and they continue that moving forward as well to save funds. So if there's a resolution attached, if you have any further questions, be happy to answer them, gentlemen.
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes,
would
sir.
say you've pretty much covered this for us multiple different times, so I would move that we approve the resolution of the City Council of the City of Willows memorializing the city's intention to directly fund the Glen Groundwater Authority as presented.
Councilmember Thomas has moved to approve item 7C, the resolution attached as presented. Is there a second? Second. Vice Mayor Hudson has the second. Further discussion?
There, you referenced $6,000 some dollars as the cost of the city. The resolution says not to exceed 7,100.
You have a new one on.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's what the
Thank you.
correction.
No conversation.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, just for clarity here, I got a couple of phone calls in regard to this. As most of you know, I represented that District 3, which goes to the foothills, clear up to, and so on. So we've got dozens of water sources that are in that district, be it groundwater, TC Canal, GCID, or whatever. I think there's a misunderstanding by them, but the people that called me, but urging me a no vote, that somehow or another my yes vote would be accepting their overall problem. This separates us as urban users while the spitting match continues
Yes.
with the other users.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. No, great. Yes, yeah, there would be the dry land fee, the dry land property owners.
Right.
That's basically rangeland,
Rangeland.
any
and
dry
so
land,
on.
any.
So by acceptance of this, it just sets this as urban users,
Yes.
period. That's it.
Yes,
You guys continue your arguments.
Yes.
And come up with.
absolutely. This has no bearing on the other three fee structures.
Very good. And that was only for clarity. It's not to suggest that I would take their position over the city of Willows.
No, understand. Yeah, and City of Orland already heard this item and approved their resolution, which is very similar based on their acreage in the city.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So it's been, Councilmember Thomas has the move, Vice Mayor Hudson has the second. Any further discussion? Mr. City Clerk, this will be a roll call vote. It's a resolution, please. Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas,
Yes.
Councilmember Sprague,
Yes.
Councilmember Bodden,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hudson,
Yes.
Mayor Hanson.
Aye. Matter carries unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. City Clerk. Item 8, comments and reports. Item 8A, council correspondence. I have received none. Marty, is there any?
No, not that I'm aware of. No.
Very good, since my papers are all mushed together over here, so I want to make sure I didn't miss something.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
That's all right. That's all right. Item 8B, city council comments and reports. Who would like to begin? Mr. Sprague,
I have no comments. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Hudson.
I actually do have a couple. I wanted to say thank you to Giovanni and the city manager for their help in the vision and priorities goal setting. I thought that went really well. I didn't know what to expect. But it definitely exceeded expectations that I had. So I did think that went really well, and I am glad that the whole council is on board with that. Wanted to talk, I did go to a Rotary meeting and talked as a guest speaker at it. Councilmember Rick and the city manager were both there. But they asked me, I was asked by Councilmember Vauden to speak on behalf of why I got into the city council, and so I gave a little spiel on that, and then had some good conversation with some different people that I just haven't met before. So thank you for the opportunity. And I had a great time doing that. One thing I did pick up there, was that Glenn Medical Center has purchased their own ambulance and is going to be, it's in the process of getting approved to be doing interfacility transfers instead of me using their acronym. So hopefully that will provide Willows with a little bit more better public safety with our ambulance, not ours, Enlow's ambulance not being going out on interfacility transfers as much, with them having a dedicated ambulance for that. So what that means is anybody that has to go from Glenn Medical Center to Enlow for better care, instead of our ambulance, our emergency ambulance taking them, they have a non-emergency ambulance that will be doing those transfers for them. Let's see here. The other thing I did attend was an EVOC training that was done. We had a lot of the Willows volunteer fire personnel, and one of our paid staff was actually there as well, as long as some surrounding jurisdictions, including Hamilton City, people as far as Wairika and Sacramento area attended that. EVOC is Emergency Vehicle Obstacle Course. So I wanted to, he's not here, but I want to thank Chief Nate for having the allowing Willows and the rural engines to go out and be used for that training so that we have safer drivers on our streets. It's very important training, so that was a big thing. And then just want to say thank you to staff for your guys' hard work and understanding when it comes to working with the council that's up here and everything you guys do for us. So thanks.
That's it. Thank you, Evan. Ms. Bud.
Oh, yeah, Evan, thank you so much. I wanted to thank you for doing the Rotary speaker thing and talking on the subject in the manner in which you did, and got to meet the lady that's managing the hospital. So that's why we go to those planes. So other than that, I share everyone's appreciation for the work and effort of staff and the folks that get us through these meetings and get the city forward. That's it.
Thank you, David. Mr. Thomas. Ditto. Very good. Thank you. Good report. Brief, well said. Yeah, brevity.
I was gonna.
Speaking of brevity, I just have one item to report tonight, and I won't belabor it. We had a Glen Groundwater Authority regular board meeting today. It was a long meeting, but productive. As I mentioned earlier, we approved the fee report with some amendments, and we had extensive, did I say extensive? Extensive discussion on groundwater recharge services within our subbase. So with that, I also like to echo my colleagues' sentiments, my appreciation, my sincere appreciation to our entire staff. So very fortunate, a very dedicated, hardworking team. And I'm proud, I was so proud to play such a small part, such a great organization. So thank you for all the work that you do day in and day out. And I know it's difficult and tedious much of the time, but thank you. Thank you very much. With that, moving on to our closed session item this evening.
City manager report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Rick. Oh, yeah, it was a test.
I think she has one.
Yeah, yes,
I'm sorry.
I do have.
City Manager Marty Brown, City Manager's report.
Yes,
please.
thank you. I appreciate the
Sorry.
opportunity. As the council may recall, we've been working for some time on the complete overhaul of the city's municipal code, hoping to make it more business friendly and more friendly, just user friendly overall. And we are, hot on the trail of finishing the code. We're probably about 75% of the way through. Councilmember Thomas, your request caught me at a time when we had just scheduled for a status update with Prentice Long, our firm that is doing the overhaul of the code. And I have not had that yet, but once I do, I'll be back with even a more comprehensive update. But we are steadily making progress. Staff has also been working on reviewing the changes that we've received so far. And we have at least one major section remaining to do, which is why I said I think we're about 75% of the way there. So hopefully I'll have another update for you that is more comprehensive than that in a near soon council meeting. That's it.
Very good, Marty. Thank you.
Marty, what about the interns? Does everybody know about the intern?
Oh, that's a good point. Thank you for the reminder. Yes, we did get a California City Management Foundation a scholarship for $5,000 to hire 2 summer high school interns. We went through an interview process. We've hired 2, Carissa Vasquez, thank you, and Helen Harlan. Yes, from Willows High School. And they start this week. Carissa finished her 2nd day. She'll be working Mondays and Tuesdays, and Helen will be working Wednesdays and Thursdays. And we've got quite a few things for them to help out on. They already went on, Carissa went out on a public works ride along. She'll be going out with the fire chief next week, spending time with the library director, kind of getting a feel for how city government works, working on lots of projects. Both of them will be doing that. And then they'll have a assigned capstone project that they'll bring back and present to the council probably at the first meeting in August. So they're getting the full range in 8 to 9 weeks of what it's like to be a city employee and city staff person.
Very
And
good.
Looking
one
forward.
more thing, Marty, is there any update on the library confusion about the goals of the council relative to the library?
The update is that it is on the library board's agenda for this Thursday. I know that I'm going. I believe Councilmember Thomas is also planning to attend the board meeting to talk to the board about the city's budget. And I have certainly had a chance to talk to the library director and at least one board member to clarify the situation. And certainly I could say what I'm going to say to the board then to the council right now, which is that the opportunity for looking at discretionary funds and our 2 discretionary services, library and recreation, was purely to take a look at the option of perhaps trimming those services temporarily while we go through this process of figuring out the city's fiscal circumstances, only at the discretion of the council, if the council is interested. Other than that, there really aren't any other cuts that could be made temporarily or long-term. So that's what we'll be discussing on Thursday with the library board.
Very good. Thank you very much, Marty.
Can I have a, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
go ahead.
I was gonna ask, you also spoke at a realtors meeting, where I spoke at as well, which was for the insurance side. You came on the city side, I came on the insurance side that day.
True.
And you handed out the Measure I pamphlet. Where can I get that? If somebody asks me, where can they pick that up to get that information packet? Is there public access to that? Is that?
Yes, there is. We can, so perhaps we should give you a little update on the education action plan for Measure I and the city's finances. So the Financial Sustainability Advisory Committee has now met twice, which if the council recalls was a group of civic groups that were going to meet and help us give input on any kind of fact sheets like what you were asking about right now, Vice Mayor. And so they've gone home with those draft fact sheets and frequently asked questions, and will be giving us some feedback at the next meeting, which is 2 weeks from yesterday. And so right now it's a working document. Happy to distribute it and share it with anybody that wants it. You can ask for it at the front counter. We're working actively on the special website that will be all about just the city's finances. Hopefully that will be launched in the next couple of weeks. And those documents will be in PDF format, also on the website as well. So we haven't released them other than, handing them out at Lamb Derby, places like the Realtors meeting, full force, because it's still sort of a working document at this point. But if you would like more, we definitely have some available at the front counter.
I know along those same lines, the television presentation you did with 1224 was focused on the positive possibilities of the tax increase for us. So good job, Marty, on the TV acting part.
Thank you. I think it could have been better, but I appreciate it.
Well, now
You don't
keep us-
always print or
Hindsight's always
publish
20/20.
what you say.
yeah.
This is true. Very, very true.
Mr.
I
Sprigg.
should have known better.
Yeah, I wanted to bounce back to the Muni code. If you'll recall at the last meeting, I think I brought up the fact that if doing what kind of instrument was necessary to be able to recover some of that ARPA money for the water line that we put in. And you indicated we were still trying to do a mini code. So my comment on the Muni code, which I hope kind of gets cured. Number one, I did a little bit of a word search to see what part of the Muni code would need to be tweaked to be able to satisfy my concern. I wasn't able to find anything, but I think most of it was because the word search is very limited. You got to be very spot on exactly what you're asking for. So I guess I'm two things I'd like to know is what part of the Muni code does need to be changed and addressed to be able to create that instrument that I was talking about? And number two, what are we doing to expand the word search to be able to search that document a little bit more thoroughly?
I am going to be relying on our consultants to tell us where that should go. It's called an area of benefit ordinance. And it has been handed over to Prentice Long to draft that ordinance and bring back as part of the overall comprehensive code. I don't know yet where they'll be proposing it. And as for the search option, I will make a note of that. This is the first time I've heard that it's an issue. No one has given me that feedback before, but we can certainly look into how we could make it more robust.
Okay. Okay, so if we're yet to change that Muni code, have we lost the opportunity to create that instrument to be able to do? that?
No, because
No.
we're still in the process of overhauling the entire code.
Okay,
It will come back to the council. We still have to do a town hall meeting. It has to still be presented to planning. I mean, there's more steps for sure. We're just not there yet.
but once that's done, we can then create that document or whatever instrument, legal instrument that we have to be able to recapture those ARPA funds dependent upon the sale of those parcels that benefit from that, correct?
We are doing it as part of the update. So
Okay.
actually it will, when it's first presented publicly to the planning commission, the council, in a town hall meeting, by then it will be incorporated in a draft format for consideration.
Okay,
So you'll be seeing it at the same time as the rest of the overall code.
that's fine, but I just want to ensure we can go back retroactively then and create that document to affect that decision that was made almost a year ago.
That is the document that makes it retroactive. And I think if you're asking, will we be able with the ordinance to go back and when new development comes in? Yes, that's what the ordinance allows us to do. It allows anytime a developer investor comes, buys property and invests, we can use this ordinance we're developing now to then exact a fee on them based on their linear frontage of the property and the kind of development they're doing.
That was the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Understood.
Any further council comments before we move into our closed session item? Very good. Moving into closed session item pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3. The public will have an opportunity to directly address the legislative body on the item below prior to the council convening in the closed session. Public comments are generally restricted to 3 minutes. This was listed as item 10, however, it's actually item 9. It'd be item 9A, public employee discipline dismissal release for Government Code Section 54957. Are there any public comments on this matter before we go into closed session? Hearing none. The time is 8:18 PM and we will move into closed session at this time. And thank you for attending tonight and have a good evening. Good evening. It is still Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. The time is 8:43 PM. We're reconvening into open session from our closed session discussion. Information was received from staff and direction was given to staff. That is the report out from our closed session item. Moving on to our final item of the evening, adjournment. It is still 8:43 PM, meeting adjourned. We're gonna